everything we've heard today is really good news for everyone. Like, yeah, it's really good news for especially the playoff thing. If the playoff expands, and I know that there are people out there, and we should be wary. It's just like being like, yeah, no, nothing's going to happen with Russia. They're just saying stuff, like you can't really think that. I know that's an extreme example, but if you look at it, the Big Ten and SEC in an expanded playoff, even at their peak, would need all these other teams to beat up on so they can advance and play each other eventually. So that's So they need that. Look, it's going to do them well, especially to expand to enforce their brand, as opposed to eliminating all the competition from outside the SEC and Big Ten, to be able to play it and be like, ha, we beat you. There we go. Beat you again, beat you again, beat you again. So that means they're the actual best. But if they take that out, then they won't have that card to play, because then they look like they're afraid to play everybody. So now if you get an expanded playoff, this really solves an issue that we had for a long time. And it goes back to the theory that Kevin Warren was never against the expanded playoff. He convinced Jim Phillips and George Kliavkoff that they needed to band together because things were getting hairy. He just wanted to make the Big Ten path the way he wanted it to. He did that, and look now, they're voting on it again potentially.
Yep.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, but that will remain to be seen on Friday or whenever they do talk.
Well, they keep saying about voting on it. I have a feeling we're going to get a proposal again.
I mean, how many times have we had these meetings, and then they get out of these meetings, and then we hear from ex-commissioner of, well, there's, this pit stop that we couldn't get past, or this hurdle that we couldn't get over, and there's, deadlock, or like there's always meetings that don't really result in the playoff changing is my point. And so
I almost wish they wouldn't have released anything, because last time they did, it screwed everything up.
Exactly. Like the last set of meetings didn't take us anywhere. So, seeing that on the horizon is definitely of interest, and definitely raises the eyebrow a little bit given the current environment, but it also does not guarantee anything by any means. But yes, an expanded playoff would seemingly solve a bunch of issues for a lot of institutions out there, a lot of programs, and a lot of people out there. And yeah, I've said, and I don't know the last time maybe I got around to mentioning this, but I definitely have said on more than one occasion that it's going to be funny if, all this back and forth between you suck, no, you suck, no, you're going to die, no, you're going to die. And then when all the dust settles, everybody's just exactly where they were. And then the only difference is 2 schools went to the SEC and 2 schools went to the Big Ten. And outside of that, everybody who is screaming why Wazoo's the greatest versus Oak State, and why, Kansas is better than Cal. I mean, those will continue on the court and on the gridiron. But in terms of, boardrooms and all that, everybody's going to pretty much stay in networks. Everybody's going to pretty much stay where they were in terms of affiliation. So if it works out that way, I don't know that a lot of people will take that as a win, because it has very much become like one can only survive. But that would be ideal for everybody involved, would be for everybody to pretty much end up where things are right now, and hopefully get a little more money along the way.
The couple of things, a couple of bullet points from today's announcement and Brett Yormark's statement. One, and Bob confirmed this, that means that both Fox and ESPN both had to agree to open up whatever this is, the discussions. And I keep saying that because of the exclusive window and all that stuff as well. There's a lot of that you can read into that, but they're going to talk. And that means both networks wanted to do that, as he said. It does appear as if that means that ESPN, whatever they do with the Pac-12, they also need the Big 12. And you may not agree with that. You may say they don't. Yes, they do, because of what did Bob say? Content, programming, content. And really, that's kind of what the Big 12's message was even last year when they lost Texas, Oklahoma, and added people, added Brigham Young, Houston, Cincinnati, and UCF, is because of filling content. Also, there was a little leverage that the Pac-12 had. You could say a little, big, whatever, when it comes to them negotiating a couple of years earlier, because of the Big 12's contract had 2 years left or 3 years left on it. And now this gives the Big 12 a chance to sit down, look at the raw numbers or whatever the numbers are, and go, hey, this is pretty good. Let's figure this out. Or we don't like this, and they still have 2 years to go back and wait for whatever's next that creates more money, revenue, or not when it comes to TV. Who else is going to get involved in a couple of years that maybe is not involved right now? House money was a term that someone gave me earlier.
Well, I think everybody I don't know, that's just general everybody, but there was a lot of getting caught up in the ratings, and I tried to warn against this yesterday. Like, the ratings do matter, but if we're going to start getting into, like, every weekend we're checking the ratings, like, that's just insanity, and that's not fun, and that's going to take away a lot of the joy. But I understand why for, like, an Excel sheet, they're good to show you why, like, Oregon and Washington matter more than Oklahoma State and all of that. But, you know, ultimately, okay, Big Ten brings in more viewers. That doesn't mean that no networks want 800,000 fans watching Oklahoma State Baylor on a Saturday in October, or 1.2 million watching, you know, Kansas State versus Texas Tech in September. I mean, there's still value there. That's the part that's always kind of been hard to wrap my head around is, yes, some have more than others. Yes, some have 2 times as much as others. But the idea of just ceasing to exist and we want less football was just always crazy to me.
Yeah.
Like, you mean, so you'd rather throw on a Laverne and Shirley rerun in the middle of the day on some network than, I don't know, Iowa State versus Oklahoma State? Like, yeah. I think I know what'll bring in more, and no, it's not 4.2 million like Northwestern Nebraska, but damn it, there's, you know, close to 1 million people, if not more, that want to watch that. That made no sense to me.
If we look at some of the charts that both Tony and Sam have given us, really what the key metric is the broadcast networks are going to dominate. And if you really look at, when they put on ABC, Baylor, like the RG3 game, Baylor and Oklahoma, that got great ratings. Yep. So it's not necessarily about the conference, it's about the game. Mm-hmm. The 2 conferences who have done these great TV deals have done a much better job of convincing everybody that they're better than everyone else. And only one of them really has an argument that they're right. Because when you look at, who's winning national championships and playoff games, it's just one of them really that's consistently doing it.
I agree with you.
Top to bottom.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, but that's like the metric for us talk show guys, whereas for the networks, it's so much bigger, and it's the fan bases, and it's the city, and it's the history and all that. Well, but you're right.
But also, sometimes I do think that you pick the easiest thing, which is those metrics of the fan bases in the cities and all that stuff, when really, if you took, the 30,000-foot view of it, you'd be like, well, if it's just the best game, it really doesn't matter what league it's from, as long as the teams are good. As long as the teams are good and, it's at that point in the year. So if it's late October, early November, and you've got 2 teams that are, 8-1 playing each other, every college football fan is going to try to find a way to watch that game, regardless of the league. So there's not, and I also think that there's not that many people who are dyed-in-the-wool. Like, they're painting to be like, oh, well, I only watch the Big Ten. No, you don't.
Yeah. I don't know how many people are watching from morning till midnight anymore either. I think it's, you're going to watch the best game. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter. Like, the SEC kind of created the tribalism conference thing, and it's worked out really well for them. But because of these negotiations, it has kind of spread throughout college football, it almost feels like now, because now Big Ten fans are thumping their chest about Kevin Warren and all that, or Big 12, Pac-12 fans going at each other. But, yeah, you're right. I don't care where USC and Ohio State are playing, but if they're playing and they're number 4 versus number 7, I'm watching that, and I'm especially watching it if there's more playoff interest as well, which is why that's, again, such a big part of things. But, yeah, just give me a game that's got some meaning behind it, and I think you'll get people to tune in.
Well, and the other thing is, and I believe this, when you expand the playoff and expand the teams that could be in it, then – as opposed to having 5 games at the end of the year that mean something for the playoff, you have 25 games for a month that have playoff implications.
Like the NFL has.
Yeah.
All the way through the weekend. By the way, Congo Super Chat